In this video, we're going to be looking at solving two-step equations with rational numbers and just with integers. So for the first example, we're going to look at the equation that reads 5 is equal to 2k plus 1. Okay. Now this is just a standard two-step equation dealing with integers. So in this scenario, our variable is on the right-hand side of the equation sign. It doesn't matter where the variable is. Just know that you want to get the variable by itself. You want to isolate it. Okay. In this step, the first thing that you want to do is get rid of this positive 1. In order to get rid of a positive 1, we are going to do the inverse, which is subtract 1 on both sides. Now, if we did this correctly, our 1's will cancel, and I'm just going to draw a line through it. You don't have to do this, but I think it helps to keep the organization clear and accurate. These will cancel. Okay, on the left-hand side, we're left with 5 minus 1, which is 4, and that's equal to 2k. We're just going to bring down the 2k. Now, my variable is still not isolated. It's being multiplied by 2. So the inverse is to divide by 2. All right, again, if I did this correctly, 2 divided by 2 is 1. These will cancel, right? 1k or simply k. On the left-hand side, I have 4 divided by 2, which is 2. So 2 is equal to k. Now, if you want to check your answer, you can. You can plug in the 2 into the original equation. But for the sake of this exercise, we are not going to run a check. All right, for the second example, we are going to write 5 is equal to, we'll say w over 4 minus a negative 2. Now keep in mind the variable is on the right hand side. We need to isolate it. Now I could rewrite this equation. I think it's going to set me up for success if I do so. W over 4. Now instead of subtracting a negative 2, I could rewrite this to w over 4, or w divided by 4, plus 2. Now this is an equation that I could read clearly, and it sets me up for a higher success, probability of success. So what I'm going to do first is I want to get this w isolated. Now students will often think to get rid of the 4 denominator first, but you shouldn't do that. You should add or subtract first. So I'm going to get rid of this positive 2. In order to do so, I want to subtract 2 from both sides. These 2's will cancel. W over 4 is what I have left on the right-hand side. And the left-hand side, I have 5 minus 2, which is 3. Now I can get the w by itself by simply multiplying the 4 on both sides. Okay. These 4's will cancel. If you want to write down the 1, it will help. But again, you don't have to. You're left with 12 is equal to w. Okay. So far, so good. Now let's increase the level. The third example I want to go over is, say, 1 minus a negative 8r is equal to negative 71. Now, same thing here. I have 2 negatives here, so I can rewrite this to 1 plus 8r. Now, this looks like a problem that I'm used to, a problem that I feel comfortable solving. Again, this is a two-step equation, so you want to save your variable for the last step, right? So you're either going to add or subtract first, depending on the problem. I have a positive 1 here. The opposite of a positive 1 is a negative 1. So I'm going to subtract 1 on both sides. Those will cancel. I'm left with 8r is equal to negative 71 minus 1 is going to give me a negative 70. Now I'm left with 8r. That's multiplication. So the opposite of multiplying, or the inverse of multiplying, is dividing by 8. Okay. These will cancel. I'm left with r is equal to negative 9. Again, you can run a check to check your answer. Now, in order to increase the difficulty of these problems, or to take this a step further, we're going to start adding rational numbers to these equations. So now these are going to become two-step equations using rational numbers. The first example problem is going to be 2.05 is equal to c plus 4.06 over negative 2. Now, because this is one large fraction, this is c plus 4.06 over negative 2. I can't add or subtract first. Okay, this c is over negative 2. The 4.06 is also over the negative 2. Okay, so the first thing I should do is I should get rid of that denominator. I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 2. Again, it's going to help to write the 1. Okay, in this scenario you probably don't have to write the over 1, but it's fine. So if I have negative 2 times 2.05, I'm going to show the work here. I'm going to have a negative 4.1. So negative 4.1 is equal to, these will cancel, c plus 4.06. Now I want to get c isolated, so I'm going to subtract 4.06 on both sides. These will cancel. Now I'm left with a rather difficult problem. I have negative 4.1 minus negative 4.06. That's the same as doing negative 4.1, and I'm going to actually add a 0 here to make it a little bit easier, plus a negative 4.06. Remember, if you're taking a negative and subtracting another negative, it's the same as adding a negative, right? Keep, change, change. So I'm going to add a 0 here because we need that extra placeholder. 6 plus 0 is 6. 1 plus 0 is 1. Drop down your decimal. 4 and 4 is going to give you 8. Remember, it's a negative 8.16 is equal to c. And that is your final answer. So these are definitely the highest degree of difficulty. Now finally, a rational number can also be a fraction. So you may see a problem that reads 1/2 x plus 1/4 is equal to, we'll say, I don't know, 3/4. Okay. In this scenario, this is still a two-step equation, only with rational numbers. So I'm going to save the variable for the very end. I have 1/2 x plus 1/4 is equal to 3/4. So I'm actually going to subtract 1/4 from both sides. Positive 1/4 and a negative 1/4 will cancel out. I'm left with 1/2 x. And then I have 3/4 minus 1/4, which is going to give me 2/4. Now this is a one-step equation dealing with rational numbers, fractions. In order to get rid of this 1/2, 1/2 is multiplying x. So the inverse is essentially dividing by 1/2. If you take 1/2 and divide it by 1/2, do you keep, change, flip? It's the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply both sides by 2/1. These will cancel. I'm left with x. And the right hand side, I'm left with 4/4, which reduces to 1. Again, if you need to run a check to guarantee that your answers are correct, you can do so.